You're listening to the Audacious Church podcast, recorded live at our Manchester campus. For more information, visit audaciouschurch.com.
And if I've not met you before, my name is Emily Foster, and usually I'm in one of our other campuses and locations, but I'm excited today to be with my Manchester family, and also for everyone watching online, great to be with you guys as well. Okay, Hebrews 10 verse 39 says this: we do not belong to those who shrink back. Church, we do not belong to those who shrink back and are destroyed, but to those who have faith and are saved. Audacious Church, we are not designed to live lives that are small, contained, restricted, or hidden, but we're audacious. We believe that we're here to live with boldness, fearlessness, and that we live on the forefront, big, expansive lives, displaying a supernatural God. So we're not here to shrink back. And the adventure is continuing. Who's excited about that? The audacious adventure continues. The adventurous spirit is part of our DNA. It's who we are. It fuels what we do. And I want to say that every single person is invited on the journey that's continuing. And the question today really is, are we going to say yes to the invitation? Are we going to say yes to choose the adventure that God has for every single one of us? So last week we kicked off two-part series, The Spirit of Adventure. And Pastor Paul, we looked at the adventure of Caleb. And actually, he took us back to my childhood. If you're an 80s, 90s kid, you will remember the books, Choose Your Own Adventure. Give us a wave if you had one of those books. I had one. It came with a little dice and a compass, and basically what you did, you'd follow a character in the story, and at certain junction points you had the ability to choose whether your character kind of went left, as it were, turned to page 23, or right, turned to page 34, and depending on which page you took, then the adventure would continue in a certain direction. And I'm glad to say that we are not going to be rolling a dice or going for a compass, but we're going to go with the Word of God today to look at on this adventure. And today we are looking at the adventure of Abraham and Sarah. Abraham and Sarah, or as the media team have put up there, Mark and Emily. So good. But what we have here is God is calling Abraham on the adventure of a lifetime. And I want us to take a look at his story and how the choices that he made, how can we learn from that? And well, if you know me well, you'll know that I am not a fan of heights. I do not like climbing high things. I like my feet on the ground, where they're firm, where they're secure, where I know what's coming, comfort, predictability. However, the Lord has blessed us with some spirit of adventure friends who like to take everything to the extreme. There's always some, isn't there? Always some. And last holiday, we were on holiday with said friends, and we were at this beach, beautiful beach in Spain, Cartagena. And, just swimming in the ocean was not, wasn't adventurous enough. So they were like, I know. Why don't we swim all the way out to that rock that you can see right there, and let's jump off it? And I'm like, no, let's not do that. Anyway, kind of positive peer pressure. The kids are like, yeah, let's go do it. So we go, we swim out all the way. And let me say, it's really far out, okay? And the rock is way bigger when you get there than when it was on the shore. So anyway, everyone's climbing up. And I'm thinking, this is not going to go well. We get up there, and everyone is just launching off into the sea. They're like, yes, this is awesome, this is awesome. And then it gets to my turn. And my feet are at the edge. And let me tell you, it suddenly became really windy up there. Like the wind was blowing, and I'm trying to explain to them, it's windy up here. And I'm thinking, I feel sick. I don't want to do this. I don't know, you see, what's in the sea. I don't know whether there's big rocks. I don't know whether there's fish that are going to eat me. Like, I don't know if I'm going to die. I just don't want to do this. And I'm looking down and thinking, I can't do this. I can't do this. And then they start to kind of create, this little chant that they've got going on. It's like, oh, Emily Foster. And they're all just like thinking this is the best blessing. And I'm like dying right here. And I'm thinking, I'm just going to climb down. The problem was I turned around and there's a whole queue of people behind me. And now they're also chanting, "Go Emily Foster," because they just want this woman to jump off the rock. So anyway, I had to just go for it. I had to just leap into the unknown and go into the sea, and I did it. Quickly followed by swimming back to the shore where my feet were safe and secure. But church, I think if we're honest, we all like to do life where it's comfortable, where it's familiar, where it's predictable, where we know what's happening around the corner, where we know what our week's going to look like. We probably all drive the same way to work. You probably all sat in the same seats that you've sat in for years. You probably buy the same Tesco meal deal because you think it's safe. I know what I'm going to get. We like comfort. We like safety. The problem is, although we think it's safe, I actually think setting up camp in comfort is actually a dangerous place to live. See, if we stay here in this place of comfort, familiarity for too long, we start to take things for granted. Our lives become stuck in a rut. Everything becomes about myself, my life. Everything's like inward, insular. And what happens is that our world becomes really small. It becomes restricted. It becomes contained. And if we stay here too long, what happens is that any ounce of spirit of adventure eventually begins to die. And this is exactly where the enemy wants us to live. He wants us to live in the same old. He wants us to live in comfort, familiarity. He wants us to have the same way of thinking. He wants us to do life the same. In fact, he wants us to do everything in his power he can to stop us from living everything that God has got for us. But I want to declare to us today as a church that there is a new level of adventure awaiting. Both for us as a church, but for you as an individual, for your life. There are pages yet to be written with the adventure that God has in store for you. And the question is, are we going to pursue everything that God's got for us? Are we going to say yes to the God call on our lives? The title of the message this morning is A Calling to Pursue. I want us to take a look in Genesis 12. And this is the first book of the Bible. And this is where God first calls Abraham. So chapter 12, verse 1, it says, "The Lord said to Abraham, go from your country and your people and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation and I will bless you. I will make your name great and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you I will curse. And all the peoples on earth will be blessed through you." So Abraham went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abraham was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. He took his wife Sarah and nephew Lot, all the possessions they had accumulated, and the people they had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan, and they arrived there. Wow, what a call. So God right here is calling Abraham onto a huge adventure. And what I love here is big vision, big adventure, big promises, low on detail. Like not a lot of detail. And right here, Abraham is being asked to leave everything that he knows to this point. All his comfort, all his familiarity, all the way he does life. He's being asked to leave his home, his people, his land. And right here, Abraham has his first choice to make. So if we were reading in the book of Choose Your Own Adventure, at this point, there would be a choice for Abraham to make. Is he going to decide to leave what he knows? Is he going to decide to let go of his plans, his dreams, his aspirations, his goals, everything he thought about life? Is he willing to leave all that to pursue what God was calling him to? So I think we'd turn to page 22 if he was going to live for his own aspirations, dreams, and goals, or to live for something greater and beyond himself. Turn to page 34. Well, we know, don't we, because we've got the book, we can read it, that Abraham chose to pursue the call of God. He went to page 34. Because this is the truth. A calling causes us to see beyond our plans. Now, for me, I've always been passionate about the house of God. I was blessed to grow up in church from the age of 2. My mum and dad first encountered Jesus at a Billy Graham crusade in a football stadium. And from that moment on, we were in church. I was there Sunday morning, Sunday night, midweek. I just loved to be in the house of God. And over my childhood, church met in many different places, in homes. Church was in the cinema at times. We went to sports halls, school halls, warehouses, church buildings, all of the different things. And I loved it all. I loved and was passionate about God's house. And I was passionate that it was the best experience. Like, I remember being in the cinema as a young kid and like walking by the popcorn machine and the sweet thing. And they're all shut. And I remember saying, Dad, like, why don't they open up the popcorn and the sweet store? Like, number one, they would make lots of money. And number two, we could just sit in church and eat popcorn and have sweets. And how good would that be? Like, I was always wanting the church experience to be bigger and better. And it wasn't just for me. I wanted other people to experience what I'd experienced. And I'd get really upset if people were ever critical about the church or the house of God. And I'm like, no, you need to come and experience what I have. And then for me and Mark, 23 years ago, we had, for us, probably one of the biggest choose-your-own-adventure moments, where we're in a church in Sheffield, and Pastor Sophia and Glyn, they invited us to come on the journey of adventure of building the house of God. Now, at this point, it was 23 years ago, we were about to get married. Mark had a sports degree, and I just finished a drama degree. And like, I had plans, I had thoughts and dreams about what my life was going to look like. I was thinking maybe I'll own my own drama company, or maybe I'll be on the West End stage and be in Annie. Like, that genuinely was my thought in my mind. But it turns out that God had a different stage in mind. And actually, his call for us as a couple and what our life was going to be about building the house of God. And in that moment, God spoke really clearly. And so for 23 years, we've been following the call of God and saying, okay, this is what we're going to give our lives to. You see, it wasn't about what I was going to get out of it, what it was going to do for me. It wasn't about whether I'd get paid or not, and we've experienced both, whether we've, clock off when we've done our 40 hours a week, 9 till 5. No, this was going to be about whatever it takes. This was going to be what we were going to give our lives to, the call of God. You see, it went from a passion as a young kid to a pursuit. This was not about a career, but a calling. This became a calling to pursue. And see, this was something that was way bigger than me. It went beyond my plans of what I thought my life was going to be like. And from that moment, I had to throw out the rule book of my plans, surrender my timelines of how I thought it should be and when I thought things should happen. I had to let go of my schedule and my agenda, and I had to step out into the unknown, saying, okay, God, I'm going to give you my all. I'm just going to say yes to what you have called us to. And I've learned this, church, that the plans for my life, the details for my life may be unknown to me, but they are known, they're designed, they're ordered, and they're held by God. And it's the same for your life. Jeremiah 29 verse 11 says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. You see, here we see that Abraham said yes to the God call. He said yes, and he stepped into the unknown to pursue what God had got for him. Because a calling, it causes us to see beyond our plans. So with a word from God, he stepped out and left everything he knew. Let me just highlight Sarah for a moment. What an incredible woman. You see, Sarah was here. She was just doing life, minding her own business, living out her plans. She had her, how her life worked, how it operated. And then one day, Abraham comes to her and says, hey, beautiful wife, we're going to be moving. And she's like, when? And Abraham's like now. And then she's like, okay, where are we moving to? And he's like, not quite sure. The Lord's going to show us. Who knows that there's going to be a few conversations between husband and wife about, is this, what's going on? But I love the fact that Sarah, she had to find a word from God for herself. She had to find her God call, and that she was part of this. And we read that Sarah, even laughed at the idea that this was going to be possible, that, a nation was going to come from their family, that she was going to give birth to a son, even in her old age. She laughed. But I love the fact that she had faith to believe that God was going to do that which we promised. And it says in Hebrews 11 that she did that and she considered him faithful who had made the promise. Do you know what Sarah had to do? She had to trust God. She had to trust him. Proverbs 3 verse 5 to 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. You see, she had to submit her plans, her timelines, and trust that God was in control. And I want to say it's the same for us, church. God's calling us on an incredible adventure for your life. He's got plans and purposes, but every day we're going to have to make a choice. God, I choose today to submit my plans. I choose today what's before me, the meetings that I've got to go to, the list, my to-do list, the things I've got to do with my kids, those conversations. God, I choose to submit them to you. I trust it all to you, knowing that when I do that, you make my path straight. A calling causes us to see beyond our plans, his plans way higher, way bigger. Gosh, I'm glad I didn't just stick to my plans and that I allowed God to work through me. When Abraham was called, it says in the Word of God that he was 75 years old. In verse 4, so Abraham went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abraham was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. 75. Like this guy, he had every reason to stay. He was older in his life. He was well established in his ways. Maybe he didn't have the same energy. And I reckon that Abraham, for a split moment, was probably like, God, I hear the call. I hear the promise. I hear that you want me to step out. But God, just to remind you, I'm not 25. I'm 75. Like, get that, God, 75 years old. And I think here we find a moment where there was another choice for Abraham to make. You see, to see the facts as problems, turn to page 53. Or to see the facts as opportunities, turn to page 67. And what we read here is that Abraham went despite the facts. See, a calling causes us to see beyond our excuses. Beyond our excuses. I find in life that whenever there's a God call, whenever there's a moment to step up or to step out, whenever there's a moment to live life to the full, I often find that the enemy likes to step in. That he tries to do what he can only do, which is to kill, steal, and destroy. That he comes in and he likes to remind you of all the reasons why you can't, of all the reasons why that's not going to work, of all the limitations, of all the obstacles. And I've found that if we choose to look at the facts as problems, then these problems then become excuses of why we don't follow the call of God on our lives. And I look back over our time and different junction points in our life, and there is so many times where we could have stopped, halted the call of God because we chose to see the facts in our current reality as a problem and not an opportunity for God. I think about when we were living in Sheffield, and Pastor Glenn Sophia came to us and said, hey, the adventure's continuing. We're going to go to Manchester. We're going to plant a church. Do you want to come? And everything within us was like, yes, this is awesome. This is what we've been dreaming for. This is what this is what we want to do. But then the problem is that the enemy came and was like, there's only one problem, guys. You just signed for a new house in Sheffield last week. Now, in the natural, that could have been a sticking point. We've got our friends here. We've got our family. Friends had become family in the area. We were well established, and we just bought a house. But we chose not to let that stop us and said, well, God already knew that we would sign the house, and so therefore God must be in this plan. So anyway, as we know, we came. Then I think to a year into planting Manchester, God was accelerating the growth of the church, and we kind of started where we were at one service. We went to 2, to 3, to 4, to 5 services in Mary Street, just over the road back there. And in that time, we had our first baby, Jasmine. Was born almost 18 years ago. Crazy. And everything within me as a mom at the time was thinking, I don't know if I can do this. This isn't going to work. It's not going to work with nap times. It's not going to work with feeding times. And like, how do I make all this work? But I knew that I wanted to be a part of this and that God had put me here to be a part of this. So do you know what we did? We bought a travel cart, and there was an office at the front of Mary Street Church, and we'd put the travel cart up. We'd set the monitors. We had a whole team of people that helped look after us, and we did it anyway. We didn't allow that to become a problem, but an opportunity for God to show up and take care of us. Then fast forward a few months later, and we went from being in Manchester to say, we want to plant a church in Chester, our Chester campus. And Pastor Glenn said, hey, we want you to lead the charge. You go and pioneer that church. And we were like, yes, this is awesome. But oh no, we don't now have one child. We now have three children, really small children. In fact, some pictures there. Oh, cute. Ezekiel was just a baby, and what we would do is every Sunday we'd come in the morning here, do church here, then we'd pack up the car, put the pajamas on the kids, take snacks and tea. We'd go over to Chester, the Crown Plaza. The kids would run riot there, and we'd do church anyway. It didn't allow it to be a problem, but an opportunity for God. And then fast forward to today, right now. Most Sundays, we're all over the place in different places. And then God's saying, the adventure's continuing. How about 2 more campuses? And I'm like, God, it feels like we're at max capacity, spinning many plates. How are we going to work out? But I refuse to allow the facts to be problems and say, God, I'm going to turn this around and say, it's an opportunity for you to step in. A calling causes us to see beyond my excuses. Do you know, I think, if I'm honest, what one of the biggest excuses is? It's me. That I see myself as one of the biggest problems. And I reckon, if you're honest, that a lot of the time when God calls us, that we are our biggest excuse. God, I'm not good enough. Me? You're calling me to do that? You want me to do that? Do you know me, God? I haven't got what it takes. There's loads of other people that will be way better than doing this than me. Why are you asking me, God? We don't feel good enough. We don't feel we have what it takes. We don't feel qualified enough. And the problem is that the reasons why we struggle with these excuses are because we're busy, so busy looking at everything that we can't do instead of looking at what God can do. I want to remind you, church, this morning that when God calls you, he qualifies you. That when God calls you, he equips you. That when God calls you, he provides for you. That when God calls you, he graces you. That when God calls you, he strengthens you for the call. The truth is this: you get what you focus on. Don't look at the scale of your problems, but look at the possibilities of the solutions. We can choose to magnify the problem, or we can choose to magnify the Lord. Psalm 34, verse 3, oh, magnify the Lord with me and let us exalt his name together. You see, Abraham chose to pursue his God call. He didn't allow the facts to be his limitation or his excuses. I wonder what problem you have magnified above the possibility of God. What facts are waiting for a God opportunity? What fact of sickness is waiting for a healing? What fact of lack is waiting for God to provide? What fact of brokenness is waiting for God to come and restore you? What fact looks like dead and there's no life, where it's just waiting for the breath of God to come and breathe life over that situation? Church, don't allow your current facts to become your excuse of why you don't say yes to the call of God on your life. A calling causes an impact that goes beyond us. See, when we read the story of Abraham, it isn't just Abraham. It's Abraham and his wife Sarah and the people around him. I want to say that the adventure, the spirit of adventure is not a solo sport, it's a joint venture. That we do this together, because who likes road tripping on their own anyway? Like, God's called us to do this together. And that this call of God that Abraham had was way bigger than just himself and his life. It says in Genesis 12, verse 2, I will make you into a great nation. You see, this just wasn't about one man. This was something way bigger. This was about advancing the kingdom of God. And I want to say that for you and your life, the thing that God's calling you to isn't just about you. It's about the people around you. But you see, Abraham had to make a choice. To choose comfort and convenience, turn to page 85. Or to choose generational impact, turn to page 99. Every choice that you make impacts the people around you. Church, if you choose to live a small, hidden, shrunk back kind of life, it's going to impact the people around you. But if you choose to live a big, expansive, faith-filled God life, let me tell you, it's going to impact the people around you. You see, what could have been our biggest excuses over time have become our greatest blessing. I want to say there's nothing better as a mom to see your kids serving in the house of God. I think this morning my son may have served you coffee on the lounge. Sorry if it's not to your liking. Good job, Zach. But to see my kids growing and serving, and not only that, but now leading in the house of God, there's nothing like it. And every time I could have stopped or kind of held back, shrunk back, and kind of worried about them, God always reminded me that, Emily, they're part of the call too. That this is part of their faith adventure too. Parents, let me say to you, your choices matter. Don't skip Sunday church, parents. Let it be the foundation of your family's starting week. Joshua said, "But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord." But you see, the call that Abraham had wasn't just for his family, but it was for his friends and colleagues, for the bystanders. I love it that it says in verse 5, he took his wife Sarah, his nephew Lot, all the possessions they had accumulated, and all the people they had acquired in Haran. I love that. All the people that they had just acquired. But the truth is, as Abraham began to step out and began to live the God life, that actually what he did is that he created a slipstream for others to come and follow suit. And I want to say the same is true for your life. As you step out into your workplace, as you go into your college or your university, as you have conversations with your family, as you live the God life, displaying a supernatural God, guess what? People around you are coming with you. That you're creating a slipstream of people to follow through. You're bringing hope. You're bringing joy. You're bringing peace to the people in your world. See, an entire nation was on the other side of Abraham's obedience to pursue the call of God in his life. And I wonder today, who or what is on the other side of your yes? What family members are going to encounter God because you said yes to pursue the God call? What political realms are going to be changed and transformed because you said yes? What in the education system is going to have transformation because you said yes? What people in university, schools, what are they going to look like because you as young people stand up and say yes to the call of God? What churches are going to be planted because we say yes and obedience to the God call on our lives? Audacious Church, we are not designed to shrink back. The adventure continues. We are stepping out, stepping up for all that God has got for us. And the spirit of adventure is an invite for every single one of you, for your life. The question is, will you say yes to the God call? I wonder what currently is a passion that God is wanting to become your pursuit. What areas in your life is God calling you to step up, step out? Maybe for some of you it is joining us on our new ventures for these 2 new locations. Just signing yourself up, stepping into the unknown, saying, God, I don't know what it's going to look like, but I'm just got something within me that can't settle. I don't want to settle. I don't want to live and camp and set up home in comfort and convenience. I want to step out with what you've got. What is it for you? Maybe there's people in this place and you've been in a career, maybe for years. I want you to ask, is this where you want me? Or have I just kind of landed myself here? Because God has got a unique purpose for you to fill. And I encourage you, don't look at other people's calling, other people's, because I want to say the grace, the power, the anointing is on the call of God for you, your life.
Thank you for listening to the Audacious Church podcast. For more information, visit audaciouschurch.com.